Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Easy Way to Learn. I'm Shalja Tripathi and today's lecture include nutrition in human beings. So let's straight away get back to the topic, remain focused and follow the lecture. See, nutrition in human beings, first I'll tell you all the 5 steps that are involved in nutrition. These steps not only are followed in human beings but in every living being, that is unicellular, multicellulars, every. So first I'll take up the steps of nutrition. Okay, the first step that is involved in nutrition is ingestion. First is ingestion. I'll write down all the steps first. Ingestion, then second is digestion, third absorption, then assimilation, then last step is egestion. See, what is ingestion? Ingestion means taking in of food. So, taking in food into our body, or you can just write into the body. That is ingestion. Digestion, the various type of foods are taken by organism. These need to be broken down into simpler form. So digestion is breaking down complex food into simplest form. Then absorption means the simplest form of food now become the part of the body cells. So absorption means you can write digested food. Now this simplest form of food can now be called digested food. So digested food becomes part of every cell in the body. Every cell in the body. Okay. Assimilation means these absorbed food particles or the molecules now are ready to provide energy to the organism. So this comes under assimilation. So absorbed food is used by the body to produce energy. And by which process energy is produced in the body? It is respiration. So next topic after nutrition or this topic will be respiration. So now the food is ready to produce energy. Egestion, it is all the remaining undigested food that is not required by the body is thrown out. So egestion means removal of undigested food. So these are the 5 essential steps of nutrition. Now we'll go back to human nutrition. You can write down. Okay. See, nutrition in human beings begin from mouth. That is ingestion, taking in of food. So the food is taken in through mouth. Okay. So the digestive process begins in alimentary canal. So nutrition, that is ingestion of food. First step will be again ingestion. Food is taken in the body through mouth. So our digestive system or it begins from mouth till the anus. So this is alimentary canal or the passage where the digestion is taking place. So alimentary canal, also called gut. So you will come across this word gut in so many books. So alimentary canal or gut is a long tube. It is a long tube beginning from mouth till anus. Beginning from mouth till anus. See, it's passage is very soft, or the whole passage of alimentary canal is lined with mucus for easy movement of food. So the whole gut is lined by mucus. And mucus facilitates the movement of food, and it also makes food soft. Okay. So once the food is taken in the mouth, it is crushed with the help of teeth, and it is mixed with watery substance that is present in the mouth with the help of tongue. So tongue and teeth both help in mixing of and crushing of food, and it is mixed with the fluid-like substance that is present in mouth, which is called saliva. So this saliva is secreted by salivary glands. There are 3 pairs of salivary glands in our mouth. There are 3 pairs of salivary glands. And these salivary glands secrete a watery substance that is called saliva. And this saliva contains enzyme called salivary amylase. Salivary amylase. Excuse me. See, amylase are a group of enzymes which act on carbohydrates. Okay, since it is present in saliva, so the name salivary amylase. So digestion of carbohydrates begin in mouth. So you can make point digestion of carbohydrates begin in mouth. This question is asked in MCQ or sometimes in assertion reason type question. This statement is given. The digestion of carbohydrates begin in mouth. It is due to presence of salivary amylase which acts on carbohydrate. So you can write down carbohydrates are acted upon by salivary amylase and converted into sugar. Simple sugar. Carbohydrates, basically these are complex in nature. For example, starch is a complex carbohydrate. Okay. So one question may be asked here, what is the function of saliva? Give 2 functions or 3 functions of saliva. That I'll write it down for you. First function, you have already come to know that these saliva contain salivary amylase which help in digestion of carbohydrate. Let's see, function of saliva. Put the heading function of saliva. So the most easy one is that it contains enzyme you can also write the name of enzyme, salivary amylase for the digestion of starch. Second, it keeps our mouth, it helps to remove germs and also keeps our mouth wet. So it moistens our mouth which helps in swallowing and speaking. Third, it also moistens our food and makes it soft for swallowing. Again, moisten and lubricate food. Moisten and lubricates food. Which again helps in swallowing. I suppose spelling is wrong here. See, you check the spelling. It moistens and lubricates food to help in swallowing. Okay. It helps the food particles to stick together so that it can be swallowed in mass. So it helps food particles to stick together to form bolus, this is again a new term for you, bolus, that the food particles stick together, form bolus. So the food is so that they can be swallowed in mass. So that they can be swallowed in mass. Okay. Again, it also cleans our mouth and prevents tooth decay. So next point is that is, it helps in cleaning our mouth. Cleans the mouth and prevent tooth decay. And the last point is it also helps to maintain water balance in the body. See, we feel thirsty if the amount of water in saliva is less. So this gives the indication that we need to drink water to replenish our body. Dryness in mouth, you can write in mouth is due to less water in saliva. Is due to less water in saliva which gives feeling of thirst. further right, to replenish body water. Another important function of saliva is that it acts as a solvent for food particles to dissolve, thus it activates our taste bud. So another point is it acts as a solvent. It acts as a solvent for some food particles to stimulate taste bud, taste buds present on our tongue. So these are the functions of saliva. So you must remember that saliva contains salivary amylase to digest carbohydrates. Then it performs all these functions. Another important point that you must keep revising, that digestion of carbohydrate begins in mouth. Now the food is pushed into a tube-like structure called esophagus or the food pipe. So from the mouth, the food is pushed into esophagus. Then esophagus or food pipe. See, esophagus is a connecting tube which facilitates movement of food from mouth to stomach. So you can write down esophagus is a tube which conducts food from mouth to the stomach. So from esophagus, food is pushed into stomach. Okay. See, the food doesn't go inside the esophagus just by gravity. That is, something is falling down by the force of gravity. It is not like this. Food is being pushed through rhythmic contraction and expansion of the alimentary canal, the muscles that are present in the alimentary canal. So this rhythmic movement is called peristaltic movement. See, it is something like this. Bolus, or the food that is mixed with saliva, comes into the esophagus. So here the muscles will somewhat become, they will expand. Okay, and then the upper part of the muscle will contract. So this part contracts and this part expands. So it pushes the food downward. So in the next step, what will happen? The food is pushed slightly down. So this portion will now become expanded as compared to this. So this will be slightly contracted. So it's like squeezing something out. So muscles keep pushing by contraction, relaxation, then contraction, relaxation. So this rhythmic movement takes place throughout the alimentary canal. So you can write down. See, swallowing of the food took place with the help of tongue, and further movement of the food takes place through this rhythmic contraction and relaxation of muscles present in the alimentary canal. So this is called peristaltic movement. First, you must write down the definition. Peristaltic movement is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscles of the alimentary canal. So what it helps to push food forward. Okay, so this rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the food is taking place in whole of the alimentary canal or gut. That means till anus, till the food is ejected. Okay. So sometimes you get the feeling of nausea, that is food is expelled through mouth. It is due to anti-peristaltic movement, that is food is pushed in opposite direction. So you can also write vomiting of vomiting is due to anti-peristaltic movement. Anti-peristaltic movement. Okay. Once the food is pushed into the stomach, let's see what happens in the stomach. See, stomach is a large organ and it is a large elastic organ. See, esophagus is bringing in food and it is entering into this portion which is stomach. So this is the stomach, esophagus. Okay. The food that is coming from esophagus will enter into stomach, and this opening here, that is juncture of esophagus and stomach, and again there is one more juncture or opening here. This is from stomach to small intestine. See, you must understand that this is not a simple opening that food will drop in from esophagus to stomach. No. Here there are circular muscles which regulate the movement of food. That is, food is intermittently dropped or pushed into the stomach. So here these circular muscles, they have a special name called sphincter muscles. Sphincter muscles. So sphincter muscles present at this juncture, they will have this special names. So we in class 10 you don't need to remember the names of sphincter muscles, but you must know what are these sphincter muscles. These are circular muscles. Circular muscles that regulate the movement of food. So you can understand, I'll try to make you understand by, see, they feel that this is a sphincter muscle. So it is in a contracted position, so this opening is closed. When the food comes to this juncture, the muscles relaxes and it opens the opening. Once the food passes, again it closes. So it is a circular muscle which keeps the opening closed and open intermittently. Okay, so you must, so this word comes in your NCERT book also, sphincter muscle. And what is the function of the sphincter muscle? It regulates the movement of food. It regulates the movement of food. So by rhythmic contraction and relaxation, food is pushed into the esophagus, and when it comes here, again the muscles relaxes and allows the food to enter in the stomach. Here the food stays for roughly 3 hours. Then after digestion, it is again pushed through this sphincter muscle into the small intestine. So we'll see what happens in stomach. See, the walls of stomach produces 3 things: mucus, hydrochloric acid, and an enzyme called pepsin. The stomach wall secretes mucus, hydrochloric acid, and an enzyme called pepsin. The mucus, it lines the whole of the wall of the stomach. Hydrochloric acid makes the food that has come into the stomach acidic in nature. The bolus that is coming from the esophagus is mixed with hydrochloric acid. So hydrochloric acid basically performs 2 functions. See, it kills the germs. It kills the germs that enter along with the food, along with the food. Secondly, it activates the enzyme pepsin. It activates the enzyme pepsin. See, this enzyme, or basically most of the enzymes, are secreted in our body in inactive form. So pepsin is basically secreted as pepsinogen. So pepsinogen. This is inactive form. And in presence of HCl, it is converted into pepsin, that is the active form. Active. And this pepsin acts on protein. Pepsin acts on protein. So it is easy to remember that pepsin acts on protein. You can remember like this: P for pepsin and P for protein. So keep making this what you call some way of correlating the things. So P for pepsin, P for protein. So this will always help you to recall your knowledge or the information that you have, that you need to produce in the exam. So always remember P for pepsin, P for protein. So pepsin acts on protein. So one important point that comes here, that digestion of protein begins in stomach. We studied digestion of carbohydrates begin in mouth and digestion of protein begins in stomach. So make this important point. Okay, what is the role of mucus? Mucus, basically, it prevents the action of HCl on the stomach wall. HCl is very strong acid. It can damage the stomach wall, and also it can damage the linings of alimentary canal, that is small intestine and large intestine. So the whole of the gut is lined by this mucus. So mucus, you can write it prevents, you can write it protects the stomach wall from the action of hydrochloric acid, HCl. So if this mucus is produced in less quantity, or the stomach is not producing mucus, so HCl will directly attack muscle walls of the stomach, and person starts suffering from peptic ulcer. So this is very important, that mucus lining is protecting the stomach wall from its own HCl, which is also produced there. Okay. Make one important point in your notes, that digestion of protein begins in stomach. Digestion of protein begins in stomach. So this is one of the important points that is often asked in MCQ and also in assertion reason type question. This statement may be given and another statement may be that protein is digested with the help of enzyme dash dash. Name may be given. Okay. Now the food, and from the stomach the food is pushed into small intestine. So from stomach food is pushed into small intestine. Okay, small intestine is the largest portion of the alimentary canal. Its name is small intestine. But it is the longest part of the longest part of the alimentary canal. Next point, complete digestion takes place in small intestine. Here digestion is complete. So small intestine, it is a site of complete digestion. Okay. Another important point, digestion and absorption both take place in small intestine. So digestion, once the food is digested, digestion and absorption takes place here. Okay. So we'll see how digestion is completed in small intestine. Okay, one more point I must write down here. See, different animals which are having different mode of nutrition, they have the length of small intestine varies. For example, herbivores have longer small intestine as compared to carnivores. See, herbivores have longer small intestine. I'll write the short form SI for small intestine than carnivores. Now question is asked why it is so. So this is the part of your board exam question. So herbivores have long intestine than carnivores because herbivores need to digest cellulose which is present in the green parts of the plant, that is leaves, grass, and cellulose takes longer time for digestion. So food needs to stay in a small intestine for a longer period. So the small intestine is long. While in carnivores, they need to digest protein which is easier to digest. So time required is less. So small intestine is comparatively small. So I'll write the answer for this point. See, herbivores feed on herbivores feed on grass and leaves that contain cellulose. Okay. It is difficult, or not difficult, I should write, it takes longer time. It takes a long time to digest it. So food stays longer in small intestine. Okay, so if the food is staying long, so the intestine should also be long so that it should get enough time for digestion. While meat is easier to digest. Meat is easier to digest. Hence, carnivores have smaller intestine. Hence, carnivores have small intestine, SI. Another point that you must note it down is that enzyme cellulase is needed for digestion of cellulose. Cellulose is present in plant cell and animals do not have this enzyme cellulase. So human beings and animals, human beings and carnivores cannot digest cellulose since enzyme cellulase is absent. Cellulase is absent. This cellulase help in the breakdown of cellulose. Okay, now let's see what is happening in small intestine. These are few information about small intestine. See, the walls of a small intestine produces intestinal juice for digestion, and also it receives digestive juices from two glands, that is liver and pancreas. So diagram is given in your book. You can see that liver and pancreas are also drawn. So liver is the largest gland present in the body and pancreas is present just below the stomach. So you can write see, digestion in small intestine is facilitated by first bile produced by liver. Liver will produce this juice, bile juice, and it is poured into small intestine. Then pancreatic juice, produced by pancreas, present just below the or behind the stomach. And third, gastric juices, produced by walls of small intestine. Walls of small intestine. So these three are facilitating in the digestion of food that will enter the small intestine. See, food that reached the stomach got mixed with hydrochloric acid and it is acidic in nature. So let's see what is the role of these three. First, we'll talk about bile. What is the role of bile in digestion? See, bile is produced by liver and it is stored temporarily in gallbladder. Produced by liver, which is the largest gland in our body. Another important point, that bile is stored temporarily in gallbladder. It is a small structure just present near the liver. Okay. Another important point, bile does not contain any enzymes. It does not contain any enzyme. This is important point. Okay, if it is not containing any enzyme, then how it is facilitating the digestion process? Okay, let's see. Bile actually contains two pigments. It contains two pigments I'll write the name, you need not remember it, but because it is not the part of the NCERT book. So these pigments are called bilirubin and biliverdin. Bilirubin and biliverdin. These pigments are rich in salt called sodium hydrogen carbonate. So, these pigments, or you can just write bile is rich in. These pigments are rich in salt, sodium hydrogen carbonate, or you can say sodium bicarbonate. This salt is basically alkaline in nature. Salt is alkaline in nature. It means if you dissolve this salt in water and take the pH, it will be greater than 7. Okay, so what is this alkalinity has to do with the digestion? We'll see. The food that is coming from stomach is acidic in nature and it needs to be made alkaline for pancreatic enzyme and gastric juices to act, because pancreatic enzyme will only act in alkaline medium. So I'll write it down. So bile performs two functions. So this question has been asked, what is the role of bile? So bile performs two functions. See, the food that is coming from stomach is alkaline in nature, is acidic in nature, which is made alkaline by the action of bile juice. The acidic food coming from stomach this food has a special name. If you want, you can write CHYME, chyme. See, the food that was swallowed was called bolus. It was mixed with saliva, made into a mass and then swallowed. Now in this stomach, food got churned and was converted into a pulp-like texture. So this pulp-like textured food that is acidic in nature, when it is called chyme. So chyme is acidic in nature. So acidic food coming from stomach is mixed with bile to neutralize the acidity and make the food alkaline. For pancreatic amylase, for pancreatic juices, and gastric juices to act. So the food needs to be alkaline in nature for pancreatic juice and gastric juice to act. So this is one of the major role that is played by the bile. Another important function that is played is emulsification of fat. I'll just explain what is emulsification. Emulsification of fats. See, emulsification means these fat molecules are actually, these fat molecules are very big molecules. They need to be broken down into smaller molecules. This is called emulsification. So, if you perform an activity, take a bowl of water and drop 1 or 2 oil drops. Water having oil droplets. So there's tendency of, in oil drops to coalesce. They'll come together and will form a big molecule. So this is the tendency of oil particles, that they coalesce and form big. So emulsification is basically breaking down of these oil droplets and also preventing them from coalescing, that is forming or joining. So emulsification action is performed by detergents also. They break down oil droplets into smaller particles and further prevent them from coalescing or joining together. This is done by reducing the surface tension. Okay, so emulsification is basically this phenomenon. So you can write down. Bile salts reduce surface tension of fats. Bile salts. So every action, that is cleaning action of detergent, is also emulsification. So there also surface tension is reduced. So bile salts reduce surface tension. Of fats and break them into tiny droplets for enzymes to act. So the enzymes which act on fats will not act on fat, they will act on emulsified fat, that is broken down particles of fat, because fat is a big molecule and enzymes will not act on those big molecules. Okay, so these are the two functions, that is, it is making food alkaline in nature and also it is emulsifying fat. So if you have a 3-marker type question and it is asked, so explain it the way I have written down. Okay, if you have just a 2-marker question, you can just write overall. If we see an overall view of the function, we can write first acidic chyme is converted into alkaline chyme. CHYME in presence of bile. Next, fats are converted into emulsified fat. Emulsified. So this is overall, you can write in short. Okay, now we'll see what is the role of pancreas. Pancreas, again it secretes pancreatic juice which is poured into small intestine with the help of pancreatic duct. Secretes pancreatic juice. And this pancreatic juice contains 3 enzymes. Okay. You can write it contains 3 enzymes. Amylopsin, or it is also called pancreatic amylase. You came across this word amylase. Remember, in salivary amylase. So wherever you get the term amylase, it means it is acting on carbohydrates. So this amylopsin or pancreatic amylase will act on remaining carbohydrate, which because while chewing, saliva is getting mixed with the food, carbohydrate is digested, but not whole of the carbohydrate is digested, because sometimes you chew very fast and so swallow it, so food doesn't get enough time or enzyme doesn't get enough time to act on food. So all of the carbohydrate is not digested in mouth. So whatever carbohydrate remains will now be taken care in a small intestine. So this amylopsin acts on carbohydrates. Okay, next is trypsin. This will act on proteins and smaller protein. Acts on proteins and smaller forms of protein. Proteins to convert them into amino acids. Once the protein is converted into amino acid, digestion of protein is complete. Once carbohydrate is acted upon and converted into glucose, digestion of carbohydrate is complete. So we saw that digestion of protein began in stomach, but all of the protein was not converted into amino acid. So partial conversion, or some of the protein that was left undigested or was finally digested in a small intestine and converted into amino acid. So this is the last form or the consequence of digestion of protein. Then another enzyme that is called Cbse. It will act on fats. Acts on, okay, you will not write fats, you will write emulsified fat, because this is an enzyme. And what kind of enzyme it is? It is a lipase enzyme. Lipase means wherever you get the word lipase, you will associate this word with fat. So Cbse is a lipase enzyme that is, it acts on fats or acts on emulsified fat. So no enzyme will act on fat, they will always act on emulsified fat. So this is the key word, emulsified fats, and convert them into fatty acids and glycerols. So final form of digestion is glucose, amino acids and fatty acids and glycerol. So this is the role of pancreatic juice, that it is helping in final digestion. And there is one more, gastric juice, we'll see its role. See, gastric juices or intestinal juices also contain enzymes which are also performing the function of final digestion. So you must, okay, one more thing. Once the question was asked, what is difference between pepsin and trypsin? You can write down the question. Difference between pepsin and trypsin. See, pepsin, first it is secreted in stomach, and trypsin is secreted in pancreas. Second, pepsin acts on protein in acidic medium. So pepsin acts on proteins in acidic medium. We know that medium in stomach is acidic because of production of hydrochloric acid. And trypsin acts on proteins in basic medium or alkaline medium. So this information is also important again for assertion reason type questions and 1 marker type question. So trypsin is not secreted in small intestine, it is secreted in pancreas, and then it is poured into small intestine through pancreatic duct, where it is performing its function. Now let's see the role of intestinal juice, which is produced or secreted from the walls of small intestine. So intestinal juice also contains various enzymes that are further helping in complete digestion of food. So write down intestinal juice. Contains enzymes which help in final digestion of food. Okay. So first enzyme that is present in intestinal juice is erepsin. Erepsin. Okay, erepsin will act on proteins or smaller proteins. Smaller proteins are like peptones, peptides. You don't need to remember these names as these are not the part of the class 10 syllabus. Even this name is also not the part of the syllabus, but these names will help you in giving a clear understanding. So erepsin acts on smaller proteins or simplified proteins or simpler forms of protein, acts on smaller molecules of proteins, that is peptides, and peptones, and convert them into amino acids. So again, this is an enzyme which is acting on protein. We saw in the stomach it was pepsin, then trypsin secreted by pancreas, then erepsin that is secreted by intestinal juice. Another enzyme is lipase. Lipase, as I told you, will act on emulsified fat. Acts on emulsified fats and convert into fatty acids and glycerols. See, the final product you must always remember.